Hi folks, welcome to repair video number 3. We have on the bench a 1980 Midway Pac-Man PCB. Pac-Man, originally called Pac-Man but changed for international release due to the defacing of the cabinets, was developed by Namco and become Japan's highest grossing arcade game in 1980, taking the top spot away from Space Invaders, which had dominated for the previous 2 years. Pac-Man also created a shift from space shoot-'em-ups to more cute comical characters and maze chase games. Within a single year, over 100,000 arcade cabinets had been sold. By 1982 this went over 400,000 units, and the game had 30 million active players across America. This was due to the game being popular with female players.
Arcades, even yogurt stores, millions of people are falling in love with them.
I like the little guys to go by and jump on everything. Little Pac-Man is so cute. It is, it's so cute.
Pac-Man is the most successful video game of all time, bringing in over $12 billion to date. When I initially switched on the board for the first time, all I got was garbage on the screen. This was due to the CPU not being in the socket correctly. The repair carries on from this point. Right then, so we've got our Pac-Man board. I've connected all my fly leads up to the RGB because I haven't got a proper cable wired up. It's using this AC supply, this big brute, and it's actually wired up for Galaxian, but just to get this Pac-Man working, it's the same pin out. So I've stuck a you can't really see under there, but basically in this prom location here I've stuck in Phil Murray's Pac-Man test ROM, and we're going to go and fire it up and see what happens. So off we go. Minus the cat. So the program RAM's okay, the colour RAM is stuffed, the sprite RAM is okay. And the video RAM is okay. But this all looks a little bit messed up. So that should be displaying ghosts flying down the screen. Come out, Oscar. So then we're presented with a switch test, which looks a little bit bizarre, to be honest, because it's displaying that all the switches are being pressed, or majority of them. So if I flick the dip switches, there's nothing happening, which is very, oh, tell a lie. No, very intermittent. So there could be an issue with the switch circuitry. But we'll carry on. Now there's been quite a bit of work done to this board, and some of it not particularly great. There's some tracks definitely broke here. They have soldered wires onto the bottom of the board to join them up again, but around these RAM chips here the sockets just weren't put in properly. So I can see me having to remove these, which is going to be a bit of a pain because they are machine sockets and they could end up tearing up the board even more trying to remove them. So it's going to need a bit of surgery, and I think I'm going to, just to be on the safe side, undo some of the work what's already been done, because it just doesn't look great. Just going back to these rams, I've just removed one of them, and as you can see, it's just a right mess. You can also see here as well, they must have heated up the turn pin sockets and it started to melt, because some of them are risen out the socket and there's a right mess underneath it. I mean, this one wasn't even shoved in properly, and it's these really where it seems that some of the problems are. So I think what I'm going to do is here, instead of trying to remove them in one piece, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be careful and take the cutters to them and cut them up into sections and try and remove them that way. But equally, you have to be careful when you snip them, that they tend to be under a bit of tension. Sometimes when you can snip them, it can equally do damage as well. So, but that just needs sorting out straight away. Absolute mess. So just before I get really into the thick of removing these sockets, I've just had a look at some of the game ROMs, the other ones. One of them had already been replaced. The first one, I've put one of the originals back in, but the other two here, 6J and 6H, I just pulled those out the sockets and some of the legs were hanging off. So I've just blown a couple of new ones, and if we switch on now, we get a little bit further. So you can see it's showing ghosts here, but they're just a static image, not sprite. And as you can see, the ones which are actually moving are all still corrupt. We've obviously got some graphics missing at the top, and we've got some issues with colour, but it is kind of generally working. There's not that much wrong with it. So I will report back. At this point, I went online to have a look at some of the resources available for repairing Pac-Man boards. I had a look at the Lawnmowerman website and Mike's Arcade, and I also looked at the two Midway publications for fixing Pac-Man boards. Unfortunately, none of the screenshots and illustrations in the guides or on the web pages showed what my board was currently doing. Well, just doing some more checks, and the good thing is that the sound works. So it looks severe, but basically I've just chopped these things up, and as you can see, I've used the desoldering gun on this one, and it's come out really easy, so I'll just carry on and remove all the others. These might be a bit more of an issue. This one just totally broke off. So I managed to get them all out without causing further damage, and put some alcohol on them and cleaned all the flux off. There's a broken trace in between these two and these two. It broke about there, but apart from that, everything else continuity checks. So these rams are resocketed, and I have also resocketed these as well, as they were a bit flaky. Although they're passed, if you touch them, the graphics seem to corrupt. So replaced all the sockets on those two. The chips seem alright. So I switched it on again. We've still obviously got issues on this screen. The sprites are all still messed up. However, a little bit of progress is the maze is the right colour now. It's consistent with blue, as we had like a white stripe down it, and there was the odd corrupt colour here and there. And also you can see Pac-Man going round and eating the dots, and he's doing a totally different path now to what he was before. He seemed to die quite quickly. So there is some small progress. Right, and back to the Pac-Man board, and what I did was, in the end, I literally went over the entire board, and any of the work that was done previous, particularly in this entire section here, which is all to do with the sprites and the maze and the graphics. Any previous work, I removed the chips and tested them and cleaned up underneath the chip holders, because it was just a bad mess. I fixed all that. I changed the sockets on the EPROMs as well, and just got it into a state where I was happy with it. I did find that this RAM here, the output on it was basically dead, so I've put a new one in there, and there was still sprite issues. However, the colours were slightly different. However, the sprites still looked the same. There was just all these garbled lines and corruption. So what I did was, I checked all through this circuitry with the oscilloscope. Couldn't find anything. It just all seemed to be working as it should. I went up and started checking this, and I noticed that there was a few issues going on between these two chips here, but scoping the outputs and the inputs, nothing looked, generally out of place. So I just started basically piggybacking, and I noticed there was some slight changes on screen where certain graphics would be trying to appear, particularly the score along the top of the screen. I could sometimes see it very quickly and intermittently appear and disappear. So basically I just changed these two chips, and amazingly it's back to life. We've got all the right colours. and we've got the sprites, and it's working perfectly. So I've stopped running it off the big AC supply, and I purchased this Pac-Man Schematics. I had to do a few slight modifications to the board just to get it to run off DC instead of AC, but it just makes it a lot easier when testing. And if we try to do this with one hand. So there we go. So basically just going over what we did. Oh, well, there was a few other things as well. Is I noticed when I was doing the repair that the reset button wouldn't work, and I found that for some reason why the input for that had been cut on this 161 here, which was a bit bizarre. But it seemed that whoever was doing the work on it before, they're obviously trying to find this graphic fault, because all the chips that they replaced, removed out the board and put new chips back in, although some of them looked like they were kind of second-hand chips off another board. They were just trying to like replace everything and anything in the video circuit, and unfortunately for them, all it was these chips on this VRAM addresser custom chip replacement board. So they were kind of onto the right track, but they were equally getting nowhere. But yeah, it lives on.